Hello friends, how is it going? It's me, Betty Jean. I'm here for a palette ranking today. Usually I do ranking my last 10 palettes videos every time I try 10 palettes, but the most recent launch was 3 palettes in a row. So now it's ranking my last 12 palettes for this particular video. I love doing these videos. It's such a fun way for me to just kind of reflect on what I've used lately and kind of really decide like what my current favorites are and stuff like that. I feel like it's a good way to give you more thoughts on things that I've tried recently. You guys seem to love this video as well. I've been doing it for probably years now, and I will continue to do so until further notice. I initially got this video idea from Annette's Makeup Corner. I will have her channel in my description box. Please go check her out. And before we get into it, I did of course also film this look. It should already be up on my channel by the time this video goes up. It's part of my like 3 looks video with the new Oden's Eye launch, so you can go check that out if you're interested. As far as my accessories for this look, these are from Grateful Life Designs. This necklace is from Suki Blade, and this hat is from Witchwood Bags. So yeah, without further ado, let's just hop in and rank these last 12 palettes. Oh, this one was so tough. This was so tough. Let me grab my pile of palettes here. Just like last year, I'm going into this year just being picky on what I'm willing to try. I feel like if I acquire something that just doesn't suit my makeup style or preferences, I'm probably just not gonna try it. So with that being said, I end up in these predicaments where everything I've tried lately was really, really good, and now I have the mission of pitting them against each other. I really tried to break down how I ranked these as best as I could. Like I was really looking individually at just the overall theme, the formulations of the insides, and then the overall color story, and just kind of really going through each of those categories to figure out which ones I liked more than others. I kind of went based on vibes a little bit, things I'm more likely to reach for again, stuff like that. But I do want to preface by saying even the palette in 12th place I don't think is bad. It just wasn't my #1 favorite this time. But this is the first like palette ranking of the year as far as like recent palettes go. So there's only 12 I've tried so far this year. Even if something is currently in last place, it's not gonna stay that way most likely. I don't see the current palette that's in front of me like remaining last place for the year, if that makes sense, because it was really good. You know, if that ends up happening, then that was a pretty good year because the lineup in front of me is really great. I feel like I have a really good mixture of brands and formulas and different color stories, and I'm excited to share my ranking with you. Also, I have done videos with each and every one of these palettes. You can check my YouTube, you can check my Instagram. I usually have at least 1 look amongst those, usually more than 1 though. So you can go check those out if you need some inspo. And also, in case you think I'm forgetting something, I promise you I'm not. I keep very thorough notes. If you think I forgot something, it was either in the last ranking. I did do a full 2023 palette ranking at the end of the year. I haven't tried it yet and it'll be in the next ranking, or I simply just don't own it and you are mistaken, my friend. But I'm done blabbing. Let's rank these 12 palettes. Ranked number 12, I ended up giving to the DD Signature Taste of Guava Quad. The main reason being is I don't reach for quads super often. And I do think this was a really well done quad, even though this shade's kind of crumbly. I have to make sure I don't spill it everywhere. I think it's a really well done quad. I think it's really cute. I love the bold green with the bold pink, and I feel like both of these shifty shadows like complement both shades really well. So there's a lot of fun you can do with it, but I'm just not as much of a quad kind of girly. My favorite size of a palette is 9 to 12. At the minimum 6 is what makes me happy, but 4, it's just unlikely that I'm gonna go out of my way to reach for a quad. I know I'm in the minority with that. A lot of people love quads. A lot of people love to just throw them in a makeup bag, have it for easy access. It's just not my personal journey. And even though I think this was well done, it's just compared to everything else, I'm least likely to reach for it just for the sheer fact that it's only 4 shades. Moving on, ranked number 11 is my DD Signature Blooming Basket palette. This one's really pretty, and I actually feel really bad putting both of my DD Signature palettes in the bottom of this ranking because again, I don't think they're bad. They were just my least favorite compared to everything else I have to talk about. But the shimmer formulas are so beautiful, and this palette is so fun. I love the combination of these rich, punchy mattes with these bright kind of springy, vibrant shades. I think it's such a cool combo. There's a lot you can do with this. I've played with both this and the quad a few times now, and I think they're really, really fun. I think the main reason I didn't end up ranking this one higher than other stuff is I think maybe I don't know, I'm just overall driving with everything else a little bit more. Maybe just the overall theming, maybe it's the color story, maybe it's like, because like the formulas in here are good, but I don't think this is my favorite matte formula of all time. It's a little on the drier side, which isn't bad. It's just not my like personal favorite, but it's still beautiful to work with. It's not patchy or anything like that. It's just not my favorite one. So lots of little nitpicky things, but that's kind of what I have to be with these rankings, or else everything would be in first place. We can't have that. So lots of little nitpicky things is what brought this one down a notch. But again, these two are really good. Don't be mistaken, even though these are in the bottom of the ranking, I think they're still really nice palettes. And if you're interested in the brand or have already tried the brand, I don't think they're bad. They just ended up not being my top favorites. Moving on to number 10. This one I actually really thought was gonna get ranked higher, but this was a really good lineup of palettes, so it went down a little bit, but I love this little guy. It's the Wicked Widow Lovesick palette. It honestly might be one of my favorites they've ever done, so it's really not a bad palette. I think it's so cute. I love this fun little Valentine's-y theme. I like this kind of muted pinky purple mauve-y vibe. I love this pop of lavender. The shimmers are so, so pretty in here. I think the main reason I ended up knocking this one down is just because it's such a nitpicky thing, and it's just a me thing, but I don't love when the darkest shades in a palette are a shimmer, and we kind of have that with both of these. Like we have this like plummy-ish shade, but it's not super dark. Like our darkest shades are definitely a shimmer, and again, that's a me thing. I just like my darkest shade in a palette to be a matte. It doesn't have to be a black by any means, but even like a really dark purple. Like I personally would have switched out this brown for a dark, dark purple. So that's really the only thing I would have changed. I love the formulas in here. The mattes are so beautiful and blendable, and the shimmers are so outstanding, and I love the layout. I love the theming. There are so many things I love about this, but in the spirit of being nitpicky, there's just a couple things that landed this down a little bit lower, but overall it's a really good palette. I had so much fun with this. Like I said, it's one of my favorites the brand has done. I'm loving these little 8-pan palettes they do. It's so freaking cute. Moving on to number 9, it's gonna be my Spring Dragon palette. This is one of the newer Oden's Eye launches in collaboration with Judy. I love this palette. I'm wearing it right now. I think it is so, so beautiful. It's a little pastel dream. Looks like this. I don't know if I showed the inside already, but it's super cute. If you're into pastels, this is the one to go for. I think the formula is beautiful. For them being pastel, I feel like they're so pigmented and buttery and easy to work with. I love the sprinkles of shimmers that are in here. The only reason I ended up ranking this one down as low as I did is just because for me, I'm not one to do just like all pastel looks very often. I do like to incorporate pastels. I think they're so fun. But the likelihood for me to just reach for a full pastel palette, unless it's like peak spring, is on the lower end. So just because of that, there are other color stories in this lineup that I'm more likely to gravitate toward. But again, don't misconstrue this at all. I love this palette. I love what Judy did with it. I love her original collaboration with Oden's Eye. I think they would pair so fun together. I might have to at some point do a palette bingo with all 6 of those collaborations between like the original and the new ones that these creators have done. But it's super cute, super fun. I'm just not necessarily gonna reach for a pastel palette all the time. So that's why this one got brought down a little bit lower. Moving on to number 8, it's gonna be the New Zealand Stargazing palette from Nomad Cosmetics. This one is so, so pretty. This one's a cool kind of galactic vibe. We have rich like pink, purple, blue vibes riddled with multi-chromes. All the shimmers that are in here are multi-chromes. And again, I thought this one was also gonna get ranked higher because I have so much love for it. I love the brand, I love the formulas, I love this theming. But nitpicky wise, there's a few shades in here I don't care about. Like the 2 beiges. I don't want the 2 beiges. Even this gray, like I don't use gray very often, so I could have lived without that personally. I do think it's a cool shade and it fits in with this. It's mostly the beiges. I'm mostly mad about the beiges. If these beiges were a color instead, I guarantee you this would have been ranked higher. But again, in the spirit of being nitpicky, to make this ranking what it is and to put things in order, that's what landed this one down a little bit lower. But I think it's really fun. I think it's so cute. Again, the only thing I would change are those 2 particular shades just because I'm so anti-beige. But I get that for a lot of people, those are probably necessities for you. A lot of people will utilize that kind of a shade all the time. I just don't. It's my ranking, so I get to choose where things go. Next up, number 7, kind of rounding out the bottom half of this most recent ranking. I'm giving it to the ColourPop Twilight palette. I think this is so fun. I think this is so beautiful. Like, this is what I wanted this palette to be. I know people were mad that there wasn't a red, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. I don't think this needed a red. The Twilight movies aesthetic does not have red, not really. Like I know there's an apple on the book, but this palette was strictly based on the movie. There's really not a whole lot of blood happening in the first movie. We don't really get into the red and stuff like that until the later movies. So for me, this is what I would have wanted, and that is what I got. Like I wanted like this to be channeled by that teal filter that encompasses the whole movie. I love the like greeny blue. It's just everything that I wanted it to be color story wise. I think it's so cool. It hit the nail on the head for me. I think it's such a fun palette, it's such a fun collaboration. I'm holding out so much hope that they do this with every like movie in the Twilight franchise. I would be so thrilled. But this is number 7. The only reason I didn't rank this one higher is just because formula wise, even though ColourPop's formulas are fine, I think the mattes blend fine, the shimmers are pretty, they're not like revolutionary. And all the other formulas I have talking about going forward, even the formulas I've already talked about, if I'm being honest, formula-wise, this one's very just like, it's fine. It's nothing spectacular, but theming and color story and my love for this, that's what boosted this up quite a bit. I'm just so happy with how the overall theme ended up going. It makes me really happy, but couldn't really rank it any higher. I feel pretty passionate about the top 6, so let's get into those. Moving on to number 6, I'm giving it to the Mighty Monster palette. This is another one of the new Oden's Eye collaboration. This one is with Annette's Makeup Corner. It looks like this. For me, this gives just like fun, punchy Jurassic Park vibes. I don't know how to explain it better than that. It's giving dinosaur and I love it. I think it's like a funky take on like a rainbow, but with a twist because there's like weirdness happening. And I really like it. Like I say all those words very endearing. Like if I call something weird or strange or murky, like those are good words for me. And I think this one's so fun. There's some bold, punchy colors in here. There's a couple neutrals if you're someone who needs neutrals mixed in. I personally don't need neutrals mixed in. Honestly, if these were bright colors and not neutrals, it probably would have gotten ranked higher. But the majority of the palette I do really enjoy. I think there's really fun shades, really cool shimmers, and overall I really enjoyed this one. I think the formulas are so fun. I think the theming is so cool, and I'm really happy about it. I just think overall the next 5 color stories speak to me a little bit more, but this one is overall really, really cool. Moving on to number 5, I'm giving it to the Earthwood palette. This is the other Oden's Eye collaboration. This one is with Tina from the Fancy Face, and this one is just so pretty. It's giving like lush, rich, jungly vibes with these little pops of pastel. It's so cool. I feel like there's so many cool combinations in this one. You could do things that are very edgy and dark, but you could also do things that are very light and bright. Such cool, interesting color combinations. I'm loving the heavy pull on like pops of green in here. Again, there are a few neutrals that I personally don't really care about, but aside from that, the majority of this palette really, really makes me happy. I think it's so, so cool. And I've had a really good time with it. Again, the top 4's color stories just like really pulled at my heartstrings, so I didn't want to rank that one any higher, but I did want to rank it as high as I could because it is my favorite out of those recent collab palettes from Oden's Eye, and I think it's so, so stunning. All 3 of them did such a good job, honestly. Like, it was hard to even rank them against each other because they're all just so beautiful. I love them. It was a really cool launch. Moving on though to number 4, I'm giving it to another collab actually. This is the Ultraviolet palette in collaboration with Deandra Nicole. It looks like this. It is a purple situation. It is so rich, so vibrant. I really, really like this one. We have such a good mixture of like pale purples into really dark, rich, deep purples. I love it. I love the range in here. Even though it's a monochromatic palette, there's so much you can do with this. There's things that lean slightly more warm, but then things that are so inky and cool and rich, and I just absolutely love it. The multi-chromes that are in here are astounding. This is a monochromatic palette done right, in my opinion. It was done so, so well. I don't even tend to favor monochromatic palettes just because I like to have some variation of weirdness going on with a color combo, but this is how you do a monochromatic palette really well. This is how you keep it interesting. Give me different undertones, give me different textures. This was done so well, and I think it's so, so cool. But ultimately it is a monochromatic palette, and the next 3 are just such cool color stories and ones that really, really scream to me. So that one didn't get ranked higher, but I love it very, very dearly. Moving on to number 3, it is my Dreamer palette with Unearthly. And I know, I'm a little bit shocked too because there are like a few neutrals in here, but it just captured my soul. I love this. I took this with me to Boston in January. I've used it multiple times. The mattes are just so rich and pigmented and buttery, and the shimmers are just so twinkly, sparkly, but like smooth sparkly. They're not that like chunky sparkly formula that's like really popular now, which I do personally like, but I love this. It's just so stunning. I think this is such a cool palette of like kind of neutral into like smoky purple pink. We have some cool tones going on here. It's such a cool, smoky, interesting palette. I think it's beautiful. I think it's kind of edgy, but kind of glamorous. There's just something about it that I love just so much. I think this is such a cool launch. But the top two palettes were pretty much like 5 stars across the board as far as formulation, theming, color story. So it was hard to even pick a favorite between these two, but I ended up picking a number 1 and a number 2, but these two were the unbeatable ones of this ranking for sure. Number 2, I ended up giving to my Wizard palette from Fantasy Cosmetica. This is their newest release and it's so beautiful. Like, look at this. Are you kidding me? The blue with the pale banana yellows, this is such a cool theme. I have always loved like blue and yellow as a combination together, and all different kinds of blue and yellow, like electric blue with a vibrant yellow, a deep blue with a lighter yellow. I'm loving this. It's just so cool. There are so many cool shades in here. We have a mixture of duochromes and multichromes. We have a holochrome in here. I love just the, again, range between like light to deep with the blues, and then that pale yellow is just such a cool addition. It gives it so much interest. I'm obsessed with Fantasy Cosmetica. They're one of my favorite brands of all time. I think their matte formulas are so pigmented and amazing, and they've been so good since day one. Like, their Druid palette was their first palette and it's still my number 1 from the brand, and their shimmers are just so amazing, and I swear they just keep getting better and better because they keep playing around more with like multi-chrome and duochrome and like all these different formulas, and this is just such a cool palette. They even came out with a highlight palette alongside of this one, which was such a hit for me. I love this. I can see this one staying very highly ranked for the rest of the year. Honestly, so many of these palettes I've talked about today, I can see staying pretty highly ranked in the overall yearly ranking by the end of the year. But we're only in February. We're not even close to the end of the year yet. So let's just stick with the now and move on to number 1. I don't think number 1 is gonna surprise anyone, but it's my Dead Roses palette from Bella Beauty Bar. This was kind of their take on a Valentine's, anti-Valentine's kind of vibe. It's so pretty. I love a Valentine's Day theme. I love hearts and cuteness, and I love like the sultry, smoky vibes of this one. I love a pink, purple, red combo. I think it's so cool. The multi-chromes in here are so much fun. There's so much you can do with this one. This one actually launched alongside of the Ultraviolet, and the brand said that this was kind of like meant to be the sister to Ultraviolet. Like, you can really pair them together really nicely, and I would completely agree with that. I think they would pair so good, just like adding more purples to the mix, absolutely. But this is just so cool. There's so much variation in this. I think it's such a fun take on this theme in general. I absolutely love this one. As soon as I tried it, I was like, this is 1000% at least being first, second, or third place in the ranking. I don't care what else I try. This one's gonna be high up in the ranking, and I was right. It's number 1. It's beautiful. I love it. This was such a hit for me. And that's a wrap on my recent ranking my last 12 palettes, usually 10, this time 12. I would love to hear your thoughts. Did my ranking make sense to you? Do you prefer things over others that I mentioned? Do you have interest in these? Do you want any of them? Do you already have any of them? I would love to know. What palettes have you tried lately? Do you have any new favorites? I would also love to know that as well. If you made it to the end of this video, why don't you leave your last 12 most recently used emojis? And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It helps my channel out a lot. And if you're not already, you can follow me over on Instagram. I'm Baddie Bean there as well. You can also subscribe. I'm posting most days over here. You can also join my channel memberships. The link to sign up will be down below. You'll get fun little perks, including a members only video once a month. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Okay, bye.